good evening, everyone, and welcome to Empowered to Live, where faith meets purpose and purpose fuels freedom. I'm your host, Andrea Rose Butler. Good evening, good evening, um, and greetings here from Mexico. And this has been an adventurous week. Mexico does independence like no place I have ever experienced. They've had a week-long celebration. It's like every day there has been something starting last week, Friday at 11 o'clock p.m. And it has been going on even up until today. And, they closed schools for a week. There's like no service, there's nothing, that happens. Nothing happens. Even the people that's been working on the house across the street from us, they last worked Friday afternoon and they have not been back. And I think everything wraps up, I think this Friday, where things should sort of go back to normal. I know even on Tuesday here, we were trying to have somebody come to do some work here and they wouldn't let them in because it was just like there was no service. So nobody can come to your house and do any work or of any kind. And so I thought I was like really interested in this. The stores are closed a lot, and so this has been a different experience. Whereas like in the states, you have your holidays, but the stores are open. Now people go shopping, people do all kinds of things, and here there was no service, nothing, not the garbage, not the technician coming to your house to do work. None of those things happen here. So it was our first year experiencing that. And I thought that was just interesting about how they take their independence so serious and that everything stops here and nothing happens here. Still like emergency and different things like that. But for the most part, things are closed. And if the store is open, like a grocery store or something like that, they close early. But like on Independence, the actual day of Independence, which I believe was Tuesday, nothing was open. So if you didn't get it the day before, it wasn't happening. And so it's just really been interesting about that sense of like community and people gather. They have like events and different things like that, and where even in our neighborhood, we heard them, yelling out across in the neighborhood, you know, like life to Mexico, basically. And so there, it's just an interesting concept of how they view their independence versus, how in the States independence is viewed, where it's not so much more commercial as it is community. And that kind of brings us to where we are today in week 3 of our series on building a strong sense of purpose. And today we're going to talk about something that we can do on this journey towards purpose, and that is we can't do it without community. We need community. And even today, I had the opportunity, one of our former neighbors had been asking us to go to her church with her, or they have events and different things like that throughout the week. And so she asked this past week if we wanted to come with her to a women's event that they were having. They have these, I guess, once a month or something like that. And this was kind of a new thing at somebody's house. And we went, and it was still about the celebration of independence as well. And even though the language wasn't there, because I'm still learning Spanish, the community was there and so strongly felt, where I was invited to come. Come to this ask me and say, you can come to my house and we can drink, coffee together, and I will help you learn Spanish. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. Someone I just met today, and the welcome feeling that I had. And one of the ladies remarked that I don't speak Spanish and they really don't speak English, but God speaks all the languages, and so he gives a language of the heart. And I was just like, wow, that is so profound, because he does. And so when we are in community, when we have that sense of community, and that sense of belonging, which is what community is all about. Community is about belonging, and we feel accepted and loved in the places that we are in, the spaces that we're in, regardless of language barriers. And I was sharing with the lady that invited us. I said, I understand more than I speak because Spanish has so many conjugations, and there's just so many different forms of the word, and some words mean the same thing. And, we're depending on how it ends and what it means. And so I understand in conversation, I understood a lot more than I was actually able to actually speak in Spanish to them. And I was telling them, I said, if you're talking, you don't talk so fast. I'm your girl. I can understand, I can put things in context, and I can figure out what you're saying because of what I've already learned. But for me to respond is not always there. And that's the part I need to get when that communication is being able to respond. And so in community, those are the things that happen. You can come together, and then you may have, we came together on the shared understanding that we believe in Christ, regardless of our language. Christ was the center of it, and that was the foundation of what we built on. And so, we can have communities based on, different things where we belong. And they talk about that a lot here. People who come here, and it's like, I don't know anybody, I don't have this, and they don't have this. And we're like, start it. If you don't see it, and which it's hard to say that it's not here, but if you don't have your people that you need, start it. And so we were not built to do life alone. Even from the beginning, God said it's not good for mankind to dwell alone. And so he created us to be in community and fellowship. Even from the beginning, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit was there, and he was like, let us. And they had that community there. And so that's inside of us, this need to belong. It's a core longing. One of those things that you learned in healing care about those core longings. And one of those things is about we want to belong. We want to find that place where we are accepted, where we are loved, and where we can find that connection. And so community, as we're journeying through to our purpose, whether we're journeying through life, we need to have that community there with us. And Ecclesiastes 4, verses 9 and 10 says that two are better than one. It talks about it, if one falls down, then the other one is there to help them up, because two, we get a better reward for their labor. And then it says for us as believers, it's like invite Christ in, invite God into this, because that 3-strand cord is not easily divided. And so easily broken, sorry. And so when we look at, how we do life, and we do it together, we do that in community, it helps us. Like if we want to give up, we have somebody there that's going to help us. And so we were never designed to live in isolation. And I know sometimes it's easy to say, nobody cares about me. Nobody's there for me. Nobody wants to be around me, and all these different things. And so therefore, I am going to, stay by myself. Or, we may feel, well, somebody hurt me, so therefore it's better for me to not connect to people. But that's just one person. There are, over 1 billion people on the earth. There is somebody out there who cares about you. And so that's important for us to remember, that just because one person hurt you doesn't mean the whole world hurt you, and we shouldn't, blame the whole, for the one. And so it is easy for us to do that. And so we remember that even Jesus, again, he had this inner circle. He had the 12, which was the large body, and we have people that we are acquainted with. And so we have those larger bodies, and then you have your inner circle, those ones, and so it's important that you have at least one trusted friend. Jesus had 3. He had, Peter, James, and John. He had those 3, but he had the other disciples around him that were there. But we need that core connection of belonging to someone. So why does it matter that we have a community? One of the reasons is encouragement. People who remind you of who you are and whose you are. when we get discouraged and we want to give up, and we're like, I don't see what's the purpose. Maybe something didn't work out. You need that person, those people in community that's going to encourage you that you can make it. Don't give up. Keep holding on. And that was again something that I found today, that that they were so excited about us being there. They even told me that they was like, you can come back without the friend that invited us. She was like, you can come back without her, if you need to. Don't worry, we love you, and so don't worry about her. And so she's having to translate the fact that they were like, if you need to come back, you're welcome anytime, with or without her. And so that was, again, that sense of unity and community, even though, like I said, we had that language barrier, the heart was still there. And it was such an important thing to be encouraged from the word, even the word that the man of God brought today during that luncheon, talking about when we get discouraged, and that, we can still trust when we don't understand. And that was also, again, a word of encouragement, because we were in community. We need accountability. You need somebody that's going to say, no, you said you were going to do this, and you need to do it. Or, you need to get up. You said you were going to the gym. Let's get up and let's go. You said you were going to write that book. Come on. Have you written today? When was the last time you wrote something? Let's get moving. Don't procrastinate. You want those people that's going to hold you accountable, when you slip up. You need community, excuse me, to say, hey, yes, you messed up, or call you out when you're trying to gaslight them or yourself, and to say, oh, it wasn't that bad. People say, no, it was this. And you need to take responsibility and ownership. And so you need those accountability people for you, who are not just going to encourage you, even when you're doing bad stuff. When you're making poor choices, you need those people in your corner that are going to push you into purpose. And sometimes the people that push you into purpose may appear to be an enemy. I think about even like Jesus, when Peter was just like, no, you're not going there. They're trying to kill you. And Jesus was like, get behind me, Satan. But when Judas showed up, the one who betrayed him, he called him friend. And so even sometimes the difficult situations causes us, and sometimes the difficult people, our frenemies, will push us into purpose, and allow us to get to that place, because they allow us to look at life differently, because of maybe how we were treated, and you're like, what, I'm going to succeed in spite of, or despite what they did, what they said, how they treated me. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to be like this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to push ahead, and I'm going to succeed, because of the fact that they give you that impetus to be able to succeed and to push. So you need that accountability. Friendships, they also, community provides support. You need those people that are going to pray for you. They're going to show up, that are going to stand in the gap for you when you're weary, because we do get weary, we do get tired on this journey, whether or not you're walking in purpose, you're attempting to walk in purpose, whatever it is, you may get discouraged, and you may feel like, again, what's the point? And so you need that support of people come in and say, what, like, I'll hold your hands up when you can't do it, and you need those people in your life. And so sometimes, we may not feel like we have those, but they're out there. Like I said, there are people out there, there are communities out there that are looking for you. So if you can't find your community, maybe you need to build that community and then invite people in. I saw a news story the other day, I believe it was in Richmond, where this lady went on social media, and she was just like, hey, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be walking. If you want to come, show up. And she said she really didn't expect anybody to show up. And she had almost 1,000 people show up. And, and so she builds a community just by going out there and says, hey, I need some friends. I need some friends. I need some people in my life, and I need people to show up for me to just come. And this is where I'm going to be. This is the time I'm going to be there. And she did an open invitation to whosoever will, and people came. And they came from all over just to show up for her. And so she said she had no expectation of this. And just like with um, me having this live, I didn't know what was going to happen. And some weeks I still really don't know what's going to happen, but I have determined that I'm going to build a community of those who are willing and are wanting to be empowered to live out their purpose, and to say, I'm tired of sitting on the sidelines, because I know that I have a gift. I know that I matter to people, and I know that what I have inside of me counts for something, because I'm not here just to take up space. I'm here, to just not to just be here to exist, but I'm here to thrive. And because of my thriving, somebody else is going to be empowered through it. And so when I come here week after week, like I said, sometimes I'm talking to this camera, I don't see anyone, but but it matters. And I know that I'm making a difference, because sometimes I get testimonies. People are like, you were speaking to me. It matters so much that that's just resonated with what I'm saying. Thank you for being there, for encouraging me, for whatever it is. Again, Mrs. You're speaking truth, and those are the things that keep me going. That encouragement, because when I'm looking here and I'm like, does anybody care that I'm doing this? And then people will show up and let me know, yes, we do care that you're here. We're encouraged for you. So I built my community of people who are willing and wanting to be empowered to live the life that God has called them to. And so that is my mission, to encourage and to empower, and to motivate others to walk into their gifting and into their purpose and into their calling. That's why I'm here. And that's why I am building this community of people who are excited about walking in their purpose. And so one of those ways you can, if you not sure if you want to start building, join a community. Find a Bible study or a small group. Even the one we were going. Remember, she was telling us about this Bible study. It's like an international Bible study fellowship, and I was just like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, they meet all over. They have them in multiple languages and different time zones and different things like that." And she's like, you should join us." And I was like, "I sure will." And so I'm going to reach out and join the group. And she said, "You can join my group, or you can find one that you have." And I was like, the time she's meeting is in my Bible study time with my church in Virginia. So that may not work out for me to be there. But she's like, they have all different kinds of times that you can commit to join that. And if you're interested, let me know. And I can send you the link to those as well, as far as, the groups that are happening. So join a Bible study or a small group. Everybody has an interest. If you're interested in something, do like that young lady did. Get started, be the catalyst. They say, be the change that you want to see in the world. Sometimes you have to do that in community. You have to be that change agent. You have to be that catalyst to get things going. So find a mentor who's walked that road. Sometimes mentor in your church, a senior saint, a life coach like myself. If you're interested in that, there's so many people out there who have walked this road, and who's willing to help you and to navigate that, and to help you in finding your community, building community, walking in your purpose, all those different things. We are here for you. This is what I feel like God has created me to be and to do. And so that's why I'm here. So invest in friendships that are rooted in faith and not just convenience. And that one struck me, because a lot of times we have convenient friends where, I'm bored, so let's go do something, but it's just friendships that are rooted in faith and not just convenience. So you want those people, again, you don't want those people who are just in your life. One, because they are pulling from you and they give nothing, or you have people in your life who, you know, they cheer you on regardless of what you're doing. Whether it's you're doing something bad, they were like, "Yeah, girl, go ahead and do that. Yeah, go ahead and say that. Go ahead and do this. Yeah." And they're pushing you into the wrong things versus pulling you into where you need to go. Pulling you, they're not pushing you into your purpose. They're pushing you to say, they want to see you fail. And so they don't mind cheering you on while you're falling, instead of being there to pick you up, to be that one where if you fall, that person's there that's going to pick you up and say, help you dust yourself off so that you can continue on the journey that you're called to. That, instead of, pushing you down and said, who pushed you? As they're pushing you down, we don't need those kind of friends. We need the ones that's going to pray for us, that's going to stand with us, that's going to encourage us, they're going to hold us accountable, that's going to remind us, encourage us to remember who we are and whose we are, and remind us of our purpose. Why did you start this journey? They're going to remind you of your why, as to why you need to keep going. And so, our purpose flourishes in community. We don't flourish alone. We're not created to live alone, to be alone. So don't isolate yourself. And I think that's the biggest thing for a lot of people. I think the pandemic, social media, all these different things have caused us a lot of times to be able to isolate, to sit at home and to, ruminate about our situation and how we're stuck and how we're not loved and how we're feeling and all those different things that are not necessarily true, but because we are in isolation. And I remember when I used to do Evangelism Explosion years and years ago, one of the things they talk about fellowship, and they were saying about that, you're like that charcoal. And when you're together, you produce that heat, you flare together. But when you take that coal out of and away from the others and you put them aside, eventually the flame, the heat goes out and they become cold. And so we need that fellowship, we need that community to keep our sparks growing and to keep us together, so we are better together than we are apart, because we will go out. And the other thought that I had was the scripture in Proverbs that says that if you want to be a friend or have friends, you must first show yourself to be friendly. So if you want people in your life, if you want that community, you first got to be willing to accept community. No matter what it looks like. You was like, well, I don't mix with these people. I don't talk to those people, and I don't like that, and I don't. And we start pick and choosing when we don't know where the blessing, that open door is for us. Maybe in a bunch of people that you say, well, I don't like those people because, and you don't know. I could say, I don't want to go to this place. I don't speak Spanish. I don't know these people. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what's happening. But when I went, the blessing, and we were there for about 4, maybe almost 5 hours. It didn't feel like I was there that long. That again, that feeling of community and the laughter and the joy and the acceptance of this time of these women that I just met, today, and they were like, you are my sister, because we believe the same. We believe in the same God. We have that same foundation of, Christ died for us. And so this is the foundation we build. So you are my sister, regardless of whether or not you speak my language or not, you are my sister. And they can call me sister. You are my sister. And so that was the important thing for us. And so again, you got to step out, don't isolate, find people, find your posse, find your tribe, and let them find you. Because again, I could say, no, that's okay. No, we're okay. I've got my family here, but they're my kids. And so I want people in my own age group, that, we can do stuff together. And they were like, yeah, we're going to do this, you should come with us. And again, we have to find and build that community that we need. And so again, if you are finding yourself in isolation and you don't know how to connect, start small. Is there somebody that that you can be like, hey, would you like to grab coffee? And let's just talk. And then, from there, find a group of ladies. Like we connected here with a group of ladies here that come from all over the United States and Canada. And, they're all nationalities and all these different things. And we're like, let's go, the different races. We didn't know them. It was on Facebook group, and we're like, okay, we're going to lunch. Let's go to lunch. And so we went, and we had a blast. And they have it, the first Saturday every month here, and we've been trying to go as often as we can to these things again because we want to build that community. I'm looking right now, starting a Bible study group here in Merida for English speakers. And so we just had our first interest meeting this past week, and we're going to start starting next week. Again, being the catalyst. There wasn't one here. I love doing that, and they were like, okay. So I put it out there. I'm like, hey, I want to start a Bible study for people who speak English here in our community who is interested, and had about 10 people sign up. And so we're going to start out, next week. Again, you got to build or find your community. It's so important to get out of your comfort zone. A few years ago, that would not have been me. I'm definitely not. I was just like, somebody they should do something, but I just felt that need to do that. And so for you, get out of the comfort zone. Put aside the fear that's there, and push through. If you know that this is something that you want to do, step out and do it. Step out and do it. Do it afraid if you need to. But it's so important that we do have the community because we need people in our lives to stand with us and to help us when we're going through on this journey called life. So if this has encouraged you, like, share it with your friends. If you want to see the replay, you can go to the YouTube channel and visit there to catch that replay. And again, thank you all for joining me. I will see you all next week as we wrap up this series on building a strong sense of purpose. Have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.